The millionaire was dining with his fiancée and in-laws when the waitress whispered, "Run, now." Everyone thought it was a joke until the lights flickered and he realized the woman had just saved his life. What happened next threw the restaurant into chaos. The crystal chandelier cast a warm glow over table 12 at Le Bernardin, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. Marcus Sterling adjusted his Armani tie for the third time in 10 minutes, his fingers betraying the nervousness he was trying so hard to conceal. At 34, he had built a tech empire worth over $200 million, but tonight felt more intimidating than any boardroom negotiation he'd ever faced. "You're fidgeting again," Sarah whispered, her emerald eyes sparkling with amusement. She reached across the white tablecloth and placed her perfectly manicured hand over his. "Relax. They already love you." Marcus glanced across the table at Sarah's parents, Robert and Patricia Whitman. Robert, a distinguished man in his early 60s with silver hair and sharp blue eyes, was deep in conversation with his wife about their recent trip to the Hamptons. Patricia, elegant in her pearl necklace and black designer dress, nodded along while occasionally stealing glances at Marcus with what he hoped was approval. The Whitmans were old money, the kind of family that had been wealthy for generations, their fortune built on real estate and careful investments. Marcus, on the other hand, was new money, having started his cybersecurity company in his garage just 8 years ago. The contrast wasn't lost on him, especially during moments like these. "Mr. Sterling," Robert said, turning his attention to Marcus with a slight smile. "Sarah tells me your company just secured another major government contract. Congratulations." "Thank you, sir. We're very excited about the opportunities it presents." Marcus took a sip of the vintage wine Robert had ordered, a bottle that probably cost more than most people made in a week. "It's been quite a journey from those early days in my garage." Patricia leaned forward slightly, her voice carrying that refined accent that spoke of private schools and country clubs. "We're so proud of what you've accomplished, Marcus. Aren't we, Robert?" "Absolutely. It takes real vision to build something from nothing." Robert raised his glass. "To hard work and determination." As they toasted, Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had been dating Sarah for 2 years, and while her parents had always been polite, tonight felt different. Tonight felt like acceptance. The engagement ring in his jacket pocket seemed to burn with anticipation. Sarah squeezed his hand under the table, and he turned to look at her. At 29, she was stunning in a way that turned heads wherever they went. Her auburn hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, and her smile could light up any room. She worked as a curator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a job that perfectly suited her refined taste and love of beautiful things. "The appetizers should be arriving soon," Sarah said, checking her phone discreetly. "I can't wait for you to try the oysters here. They're absolutely divine." Marcus nodded, though his mind was racing ahead to the moment he would pull out the ring. He had planned it perfectly, right after dessert, when the mood was just right. He had even spoken to the restaurant manager earlier to ensure they would dim the lights at his signal. The dining room buzzed with the quiet conversations of Manhattan's elite. Politicians, celebrities, and business moguls occupied the surrounding tables, their voices creating a sophisticated backdrop to the evening. This was Sarah's world, a world of privilege and refinement that Marcus was still learning to navigate. "I have to say," Robert continued, "when Sarah first told us about you, I wasn't sure what to expect. But you've exceeded every expectation, son." The word son hit Marcus like a warm embrace. He had lost his own father when he was just 16, and hearing Robert use that term meant more than the older man could possibly know. As if on cue, their server approached the table with the first course. Marcus had noticed her earlier, a young woman who seemed oddly out of place among the restaurant's typically polished staff. While the other servers moved with practiced elegance, she appeared nervous, constantly glancing over her shoulder. "Good evening," she said, her voice carrying a slight tremor. "I have the oysters Rockefeller for the table." As she placed the plates with shaking hands, Marcus noticed her name tag read Jenny. She couldn't have been more than 25, with short brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and kind eyes that seemed to hold secrets. "These look wonderful," Patricia said graciously. "Thank you, dear." Jenny nodded quickly, but instead of leaving, she lingered beside the table. Marcus watched as she appeared to struggle with something, her eyes darting between him and the kitchen. "Is everything all right?" Sarah asked, noticing the waitress's unusual behavior. Jenny started, then stopped. She looked directly at Marcus, and he saw something in her eyes that made his stomach clench. Fear, pure and desperate fear. "Sir," she whispered, leaning slightly closer to Marcus while pretending to adjust his napkin. "You need to leave, now. They're coming for you." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "Excuse me. Jenny, what's wrong?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed with concern. But Jenny wasn't looking at Sarah. Her eyes remained locked on Marcus, urgent and pleading. "The back exit, through the kitchen. Go now before it's too late." Robert straightened in his chair, his businessman instincts kicking in. "Young lady, what exactly are you talking about?" Jenny's hands were visibly shaking now. "Please, Mr. Sterling, I can't explain, but you have to trust me. Your life depends on it." Marcus felt the world tilt on its axis. This was supposed to be the perfect evening, the night he proposed to the woman he loved, surrounded by her family's approval. Instead, a stranger was telling him to flee for his life. "This is ridiculous," Sarah said, her voice sharp with irritation. "Jenny, I think you should—" She was interrupted by the sound of Marcus's phone buzzing urgently in his pocket. He pulled it out with trembling fingers to see a text from an unknown number. "They know about Phoenix. Run." Phoenix, the code name for his company's most classified project, something so secret that only 5 people in the world knew about it. Marcus felt his heart hammering against his ribs as the implications crashed over him like a cold wave. Jenny saw his face change and nodded grimly. "You see it now, don't you? They're already here." Marcus's eyes swept the restaurant with new awareness. At a table near the entrance, he spotted 2 men in dark suits who seemed far too interested in their surroundings and not interested enough in their food. By the bar, another man was speaking quietly into his phone while watching their table. "Marcus, what's going on?" Sarah's voice seemed to come from far away. "You're scaring me." He looked at her, really looked at her, memorizing every detail of her face. The engagement ring in his pocket felt like a weight pulling him down into an abyss he couldn't escape. "I'm sorry," he whispered, standing up so quickly his chair nearly toppled over. "I'm so sorry, Sarah." "Sir, please," Jenny urged, glancing nervously toward the kitchen. "We have maybe 2 minutes." Without another word, Marcus followed Jenny toward the back of the restaurant, leaving behind the woman he loved, her bewildered parents, and the life he had spent 8 years building. Behind him he could hear Sarah calling his name, her voice breaking with confusion and hurt. The kitchen of Le Bernardin was a symphony of controlled chaos. Chefs shouted orders in French while flames danced from sauté pans, and the air thick with steam and the aroma of expensive ingredients. Jenny weaved through the maze of stainless steel counters with practiced ease, Marcus close behind her. "This way," she hissed, pushing through a set of double doors that led to a narrow hallway lined with storage rooms. "There's a service elevator that goes directly to the parking garage." Marcus's mind raced as they hurried down the corridor. "Who are you? How do you know about Phoenix?" Jenny didn't slow down. "Someone who cares about the truth. Someone who's been watching you for weeks, trying to find the right moment to warn you." They reached the service elevator, and Jenny frantically pressed the call button. The ancient machinery groaned to life somewhere above them, taking what felt like an eternity to descend. "Why should I trust you?" Marcus demanded, his breathing heavy. "This could be a trap." Jenny turned to face him, and in the harsh fluorescent lighting of the hallway, he could see tears forming in her eyes. "Because my brother died for Phoenix, Mr. Sterling. And if you don't get out of here right now, you're going to die too." The elevator doors opened with a rusty screech. As they stepped inside, Marcus heard commotion from the direction of the dining room. Raised voices, chairs scraping against the floor. Sarah was probably demanding answers he couldn't give, at least not yet. "Your brother?" Marcus asked as the elevator descended. "David Chen. He was a programmer on your team until 6 months ago." Jenny's voice was barely above a whisper. "They told everyone he quit, moved to California for a new job. But he didn't quit, Mr. Sterling. He was murdered because he discovered what Phoenix really is." The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. David Chen had been one of his most brilliant employees, a quiet young man with an extraordinary talent for encryption algorithms. His sudden departure had been strange. David had given no notice, hadn't even cleaned out his desk properly. The elevator shuddered to a stop, and the doors opened to reveal the restaurant's underground parking garage. The space was dimly lit, filled with expensive cars belonging to the evening's diners. Jenny grabbed his arm and pulled him toward a beat-up Honda Civic, parked near the exit ramp. "Get in," she ordered, fumbling for her keys. Marcus hesitated. Everything in his rational mind told him this was insane. He was Marcus Sterling. He didn't run from mysterious threats or jump into cars with strangers. He solved problems with lawyers and board meetings and carefully calculated business decisions. But David Chen was dead, and somehow Phoenix was connected to it. He got in the car. Jenny started the engine and peeled out of the garage with squealing tires. As they emerged onto the street, Marcus saw 3 black SUVs pulling up to the restaurant's main entrance. Men in dark suits were already climbing out, moving with military precision. Jesus, Marcus breathed. Who are these people? The same people who killed David, the same people who've been monitoring your every move for months. Jenny navigated through Manhattan traffic with aggressive skill, constantly checking her mirrors. They know about the back door, Mr. Sterling. They know what you built into Phoenix. Marcus felt his world crumbling around him. Phoenix was supposed to be his masterpiece, a cybersecurity system so advanced it could protect the nation's most critical infrastructure from any digital attack. The government contract was worth $500 million over 5 years, enough to cement his company's future and his own legacy. But there was something else, something he had never told anyone, not even his closest advisors. "How much do you know?" he asked quietly. Jenny glanced at him in the rearview mirror, her expression grim. "I know that Phoenix isn't just a defense system. I know that you built a way in, not just a way to keep threats out. And I know that certain people want to use that access for purposes you never intended." 20 minutes later, they sat in an all-night diner in Queens, far from the glittering towers of Manhattan. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across their faces as they huddled in a corner booth. Marcus had ordered coffee he couldn't drink, his hands still shaking from the adrenaline. Jenny sat across from him, no longer the nervous waitress from the restaurant. Her posture was different now, alert, focused, dangerous. She had removed her server's apron to reveal a simple black t-shirt, and Marcus noticed a small scar on her left wrist that looked suspiciously like a knife wound. "Start from the beginning," Marcus said. "Who was your brother, really?" Jenny stared into her coffee cup as if the answers were floating in the dark liquid. David was more than just a programmer. He was a whistleblower, though he didn't know it at first. When he started working on Phoenix, he thought he was building something to protect America. It took him months to realize what you had really created. "And what exactly do you think I created?" "The ultimate surveillance tool." Jenny's eyes met his across the table. "Phoenix doesn't just protect against cyber attacks. It provides complete access to any system it's installed on. Power grids, financial networks, communication systems, even nuclear facilities. You built the master key to America's digital infrastructure." Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the truth settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. She was right, of course. Phoenix contained a hidden protocol he had coded himself, a backdoor that would allow authorized users to access and control protected systems. He had told himself it was a necessary safeguard, a way for legitimate authorities to maintain oversight and respond to threats. But he had always known it could be used for darker purposes. "David figured it out," Jenny continued. "He tried to confront you about it, but you were always too busy, always in meetings. So he started documenting everything. Code fragments, internal memos, test results. He was going to expose Phoenix for what it really was. But he never came to me," Marcus protested. "If he had concerns, he tried. But every time he requested a meeting, your assistant would reschedule. Every email he sent got buried in your inbox. David started to think that maybe you already knew what Phoenix could do. Maybe you intended it all along." The accusation hit Marcus like a slap. He thought about all the times his assistant had mentioned David wanting to see him, all the emails he had flagged to read later, but never got around to. He had been so focused on the business side of Phoenix, the contracts, the presentations, the investors, that he had ignored the concerns of the very people building it. 3 days before he died, Jenny said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, David called me. He was terrified. He said he had tried to delete his copies of the Phoenix documentation, but someone had been monitoring his computer. They knew what he had discovered. Marcus felt sick. What happened to him? Officially? A car accident on the FDR Drive at 2 in the morning. Single vehicle collision, no witnesses. The police said he fell asleep at the wheel. Jenny's hands clenched into fists on the table. But David never drove at night. He had terrible night vision. And he was the most careful person I knew. He wouldn't even jaywalk across an empty street. Through the diner's windows, Marcus could see the lights of the city stretching endlessly into the darkness. Somewhere out there, Sarah was probably still at the restaurant, demanding answers from her parents about what had just happened. The engagement ring was still in his jacket pocket, a symbol of a future that now seemed impossibly distant. "So who killed him?" Marcus asked. "And who are the people who came after me tonight?" Jenny reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope, sliding it across the table. David wasn't just documenting Phoenix. He was documenting the people who wanted to use it. Corporate executives, government officials, foreign agents, all of them willing to pay billions for access to America's digital backbone. Marcus opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside were photographs, documents, and what appeared to be financial records. The first photo showed a man he recognized immediately, Senator William Hawthorne, chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee and one of Phoenix's biggest supporters in Congress. The second photo made his blood freeze. It showed Sarah's father, Robert Whitman, shaking hands with a man Marcus didn't recognize outside what appeared to be a private club. "No," Marcus whispered. "This can't be right." Jenny nodded grimly. "Your fiancé's family isn't just old money, Mr. Sterling. They're connected to people who've been waiting years for something like Phoenix to come along. And now that it's almost ready for deployment, they're not going to let anyone stand in their way." Marcus stared at the photograph, his mind reeling. Sarah doesn't know. She can't know. Maybe not, but her father does. And now that you've seen this, they'll assume you know too. Jenny leaned forward urgently. "They gave you tonight to propose, to become part of the family officially, but when you ran, you told them everything they needed to know." Outside, Marcus noticed a black sedan had pulled into the diner's parking lot. Two men in suits sat in the front seat, watching the entrance. "We need to go," he said. Jenny followed his gaze and cursed under her breath. "Back exit, now." As they slipped out of the booth, Marcus realized that his old life, his company, his fiancée, his carefully constructed success, was over. From now on, he was a man with a target on his back, carrying secrets that powerful people would kill to protect. The only question was whether he would live long enough to expose the truth. The abandoned warehouse in Brooklyn looked like countless others that dotted the industrial waterfront. Broken windows, rusted fire escapes, and walls covered in decades of graffiti. Jenny parked her Honda behind a stack of shipping containers, the engine ticking as it cooled in the pre-dawn darkness. "This is it?" Marcus asked, eyeing the decrepit building with skepticism. "Looks can be deceiving," Jenny replied, shouldering a backpack she had retrieved from her trunk. David was paranoid, but he was also smart. He prepared for this day. They approached what appeared to be a sealed loading dock door. Jenny produced a small device from her pocket, something that looked like a garage door opener crossed with a smartphone. She pressed a sequence of buttons, and to Marcus's amazement, a section of the rusted metal door slid silently aside. The interior was a revelation. What had appeared to be an empty warehouse from the outside was actually a sophisticated safe house. Banks of computer monitors lined one wall, powered by what looked like military-grade generators. A small living area had been set up in one corner, complete with a kitchenette and sleeping quarters. Most impressive was the communication center, satellite uplinks, encrypted radio equipment, and enough electronic surveillance gear to make the NSA jealous. "David built all this?" Marcus asked, running his hand along a bank of servers that hummed quietly in the darkness. "He had help. There are others who've been watching Phoenix, people in the intelligence community who know what it really represents." Jenny moved to one of the computers and began typing rapidly. David wasn't the only one who died for asking the wrong questions. Marcus sank into a chair, the events of the evening finally catching up with him. 6 hours ago, he had been a successful businessman preparing to propose to the woman he loved. Now he was a fugitive hiding in a warehouse, learning that his life's work was potentially a tool for destruction rather than protection. "Show me," he said quietly. "Show me everything David discovered." Jenny's fingers flew across the keyboard, and the main monitor came to life. File after file appeared. Financial records, communication intercepts, surveillance photos, and most damning of all, actual fragments of Phoenix code that Marcus himself had written. "This is the backdoor protocol," Jenny said, pointing to lines of code on the screen. "David reverse-engineered it from the production servers. Do you see what this does?" Marcus leaned forward, his programmer's mind automatically parsing the elegant algorithms he had crafted months ago. The code was beautiful in its simplicity, a hidden subroutine that would allow authorized users to bypass Phoenix's security measures and gain administrative access to any protected system. It was supposed to be for emergencies, Marcus said defensively. Government oversight, national security threats. Look at the authorization keys, Jenny interrupted, highlighting a section of code. These aren't government encryption signatures. They're private keys, generated by entities that have nothing to do with national security. Marcus studied the code more carefully, and his heart sank. The authorization protocols were indeed wrong. Instead of pointing to official government servers, they referenced a network of private systems he didn't recognize. David traced these keys, Jenny continued, opening another file. They lead to a consortium of private interests. Defense contractors, foreign governments, criminal organizations, people who want to use Phoenix to manipulate elections, steal industrial secrets, or simply hold the country's infrastructure hostage. The monitor displayed a network diagram that looked like a spider web of corruption. Names Marcus recognized from Fortune 500 companies were connected to offshore accounts, which in turn linked to organizations he definitely didn't recognize and didn't want to. Robert Whitman is here, Jenny said, highlighting a node in the network. So is Senator Hawthorne, and look at this. Someone's been making payments to key members of your own development team. Marcus felt sick as he saw the names. 3 of his most trusted programmers had been receiving regular deposits from accounts linked to the consortium, people he had worked with for years, people he had trusted with his most sensitive projects. They've been watching Phoenix from the inside, he realized, monitoring the development, making sure the back doors stayed in place, and eliminating anyone who got too close to the truth. Jenny pulled up another file, a list of names with dates next to them. David Chen wasn't the first. Look at this. The list contained a dozen names, all former employees of Marcus's company or related organizations. Next to each name was a date and a brief description. Car accident, suicide, heart attack, mugging gone wrong. Marcus recognized several of the names, talented people who had left the company under various circumstances over the past 2 years. At the time, their departures had seemed like normal industry turnover. Now, he saw the pattern. They've been cleaning house, he whispered. Anyone who might have discovered what Phoenix really does. Jenny nodded grimly. And now that Phoenix is about to go live, they're accelerating the timeline. The system will be deployed to critical infrastructure nationwide within the next month. Once it's in place, the consortium will have access to everything. Power grids, water systems, financial networks, military communications. Marcus stood up and began pacing, his mind racing through the implications. Phoenix was designed to be the ultimate cybersecurity solution, protecting America's most vital systems from foreign attacks. But with the hidden backdoors, it would actually make those systems more vulnerable than ever. We have to stop it, he said. We have to expose this before Phoenix goes live. With what proof? Jenny asked. Everything David collected is circumstantial. Code fragments, financial records, suspicious deaths. It's not enough to convince anyone who matters. And besides, who would we go to? Half the people who should be investigating this are part of the conspiracy. As dawn broke over Brooklyn, casting long shadows through the warehouse windows, Marcus tried calling his office. The phone rang 3 times before his assistant, Monica, answered with her usual professional cheerfulness. Mr. Sterling, thank goodness you're all right. There were some men here looking for you this morning. They said there was an emergency. Monica, listen to me carefully, Marcus interrupted. I need you to get out of the office, right now. Don't pack anything. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Just leave. But sir, I don't understand. These men, they had FBI credentials. They're not FBI. They're the people who killed David Chen. Marcus could hear the shock in Monica's silence. I need you to go to your sister's house in New Jersey and stay there until I contact you. Can you do that? Mr. Sterling, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. These people are dangerous, and anyone close to me is a target. Marcus closed his eyes, hating that he was dragging innocent people into this nightmare. Monica, before you leave, I need you to access the secure server and download everything related to Project Phoenix. Everything. Put it on an encrypted drive and take it with you. But that's against company policy. Company policy doesn't matter anymore. The company is compromised. Please, Monica, lives depend on this. After she hung up, Marcus turned to find Jenny watching him with a mixture of sympathy and determination. "Your assistant seems loyal," she observed. "Monica's been with me for 4 years. She doesn't deserve to get caught up in this." Marcus slumped back into his chair. "None of them do." Jenny pulled up a new screen showing news feeds from major networks. "It's already starting, look at this." The headlines made Marcus's blood run cold. Tech CEO Marcus Sterling wanted for questioning in terrorist plot. Cybersecurity magnate flees FBI investigation. Sterling Technologies under federal investigation. "They're painting you as the villain," Jenny said. "By this afternoon, every law enforcement agency in the country will be looking for you. They're not just hunting you. They're destroying your credibility so that even if you do come forward, no one will believe you." Marcus watched in horror as his professional headshot appeared on CNN, accompanied by speculation about his sudden disappearance and possible ties to foreign agents. The news anchor spoke with the kind of grave authority reserved for national security threats. "Sarah," he whispered, thinking of his fiancée. She was probably watching this right now, trying to understand how the man she loved had become a wanted fugitive overnight. "You can't contact her," Jenny said, reading his thoughts. "They'll be monitoring her communications, waiting for you to reach out. The moment you try to explain, they'll trace the call." Marcus's phone buzzed with an incoming call. The number was blocked, but something made him answer it anyway. "Hello, Marcus." The voice was cultured, familiar, and filled with false warmth. "Robert Whitman." "Robert." Marcus tried to keep his voice steady. "I suppose you're calling to explain." "Actually, I'm calling to offer you a way out of this mess. You've gotten yourself into quite a predicament, son. But it's not too late to fix this." Jenny was frantically typing, trying to trace the call, but Marcus knew it was futile. People like Robert Whitman didn't make traceable phone calls. "What do you want?" Marcus asked. "I want you to come home." Sarah is beside herself with worry. She doesn't understand why the man she loves has suddenly become a fugitive. She's asking difficult questions, Marcus. Questions I'd rather not answer. The implied threat was clear. Sarah's safety depended on Marcus's cooperation. And what exactly would coming home accomplish? "You'd be arrested, of course. But we could arrange for a very comfortable prison stay while the legal proceedings play out. White-collar minimum security, probably out in 2 years with good behavior. And Sarah would be safe." Marcus looked at Jenny, who was shaking her head vigorously. On her screen, she had pulled up information about the federal facility where Marcus would likely be held, the same prison where 3 other Phoenix-related witnesses had died of natural causes while awaiting trial. "What about Phoenix?" Marcus asked. "Phoenix will proceed as planned. America needs that protection, Marcus. The system you built will save countless lives and protect our national security. Surely that's worth a small sacrifice on your part." "And the back doors? The unauthorized access?" Robert's laugh was cold. "I have no idea what you're talking about. You're obviously under a great deal of stress, son. Perhaps you should consider psychiatric evaluation along with legal counsel." The line went dead. Jenny looked up from her computer. "We've got bigger problems. I'm picking up encrypted chatter on federal frequencies. They've got teams mobilizing across the city. Somehow they're narrowing down our location." As if to punctuate her words, the distant sound of helicopters reached their ears, growing steadily louder. "How is that possible?" Marcus demanded. "This place is supposed to be secure." Jenny's face had gone pale. "Unless—" "Marcus, do you still have your phone, your personal phone?" Marcus pulled out his iPhone, the same device he'd had for 2 years. "Of course, but I disabled the GPS. It doesn't matter. If they have the right equipment, they can track any phone, even when it's supposedly off." Jenny was already moving, shutting down computers and grabbing essential equipment. David was right to be paranoid. He said never trust any device you didn't build yourself. The helicopter sounds were getting closer now, joined by the distant wail of sirens. Marcus realized with growing horror that his phone had been leading them straight to their hiding place all along. "We need to go," Jenny said, slinging her backpack over her shoulder. "Now." As they headed for the rear exit, Marcus took one last look at the sophisticated safe house David Chen had built. In a few minutes it would be crawling with federal agents, and another piece of evidence would disappear forever. But they had the files. They had the proof. Now they just had to stay alive long enough to use it. The subway tunnels beneath Brooklyn reeked of decades of urban decay, but they provided something Marcus had never appreciated before: invisibility. Jenny led him through a maze of maintenance corridors and abandoned platforms, moving with the confidence of someone who had mapped every inch of the underground network. David used to say the city above ground belongs to them, she explained, her voice echoing off the tunnel walls. But down here we have the advantage. They had been walking for over an hour, putting distance between themselves and the warehouse. Behind them, the sounds of the search had faded, but Marcus knew it was only temporary. The federal task force hunting him had resources he couldn't even imagine. "Here," Jenny said, stopping at what appeared to be a solid wall. She pressed a sequence of bricks, and a section swung inward to reveal another hidden space. David wasn't the only one who saw this coming. The room beyond was smaller than the warehouse, but equally sophisticated. 3 other people were waiting for them, a mix of ages and backgrounds that surprised Marcus. An elderly man in a rumpled suit sat at a computer terminal, while a young woman with purple hair monitored radio frequencies. A middle-aged Hispanic man cleaned what looked like a very illegal firearm. "Everyone, meet Marcus Sterling," Jenny announced. "Marcus, these are the people who've been fighting this war while you were building boardrooms and courting investors." The elderly man looked up from his computer. "Dr. Harrison Webb," he said, extending a weathered hand. "Former NSA, current enemy of the state. I've been watching your Phoenix project with great interest and considerable alarm." The young woman turned from her radio setup. "Riley Chen. David was my cousin. I've been wanting to meet the man whose invention got my family killed." Marcus felt the hostility radiating from her, like heat from a furnace. "I never intended—" "Intentions don't matter," the Hispanic man interrupted, setting down his weapon. "I'm Carlos Mendez, former FBI cybercrime unit. I was investigating irregular activity around government contracts when I started noticing a pattern. Whistleblowers dying, evidence disappearing, cases getting buried. Phoenix kept coming up in connections that weren't supposed to exist." Dr. Webb gestured for Marcus to sit down. "We've been tracking the consortium for 3 years. What you call Phoenix, they call Prometheus, the gift of fire stolen from the gods. They see it as the ultimate tool for reshaping global power structures." "Show him the projections," Riley said coldly. Webb pulled up a series of charts and graphs that made Marcus's stomach clench. "Once Phoenix is deployed to critical infrastructure, the consortium estimates they'll be able to manipulate energy markets by causing selective blackouts, financial markets by disrupting trading systems, even election results by compromising voting machines in key districts. This is what your backdoor enables," Carlos added, "complete control over the digital nervous system of the most powerful country on Earth." Marcus stared at the projections, seeing his elegant code transformed into a weapon of unprecedented scope. "We can stop it. We can expose them before the deployment." "With what?" Riley snapped. David tried that approach. He gathered evidence, documented everything, prepared to go public. Look how that worked out for him. Webb leaned forward, his expression grave. "The consortium doesn't just have money and political connections, Marcus. They have something more dangerous. The ability to control information. Every major news outlet, every social media platform, every search engine algorithm can be influenced. Even if we released everything we have, they could bury it in a sea of disinformation within hours." "Then what do you suggest?" Marcus asked. Carlos smiled grimly. "We don't expose them, we destroy Phoenix entirely." The room fell silent except for the hum of electronic equipment. Marcus felt the weight of what Carlos was suggesting settle over him like a shroud. "You're talking about sabotage," he said slowly. "We're talking about saving the country," Webb replied. "Phoenix isn't just a security system. It's a Trojan horse designed to give a criminal organization control over American infrastructure. The only way to stop them is to make sure Phoenix never goes online." Riley pulled up another screen showing the deployment timeline. "Phoenix is scheduled to go live in 72 hours. The main servers are housed in a facility in Virginia that's basically a fortress. Military-grade security, isolated from external networks, defended by people who think they're protecting national security." "But there's a window," Jenny added. "Tomorrow night, there's a final systems test before the deployment. For exactly 4 hours, Phoenix will be connected to external test networks to verify compatibility with existing infrastructure." Marcus understood immediately. "You want me to hack my own system?" "You built the backdoors," Carlos said. "You know Phoenix better than anyone else alive. During that 4-hour window, you could introduce a virus that would corrupt the entire system from the inside. But I'd need access to the production servers. And even if I could get in remotely, the security protocols would recognize you as the system's creator," Webb finished. "Your biometric signatures, your coding patterns, your administrative credentials. Phoenix was designed to trust you absolutely." Marcus thought about the implications. Destroying Phoenix would mean destroying years of work, billions of dollars in development, and potentially his entire company. But it would also mean stopping a conspiracy that threatened to undermine American democracy itself. "There's something else," Riley said quietly. "If we do this, if we destroy Phoenix, you'll never be able to go back to your old life. The consortium will know you're responsible. They'll never stop hunting you." "And Sarah?" Marcus asked. Jenny exchanged glances with the others. "As long as Phoenix exists, she's leverage against you. But if Phoenix is destroyed, if the consortium's plans are ruined, they might decide she's more valuable as a way to maintain their cover story. The grieving fiancée of a terrorist who destroyed a vital national security system." While the others planned the technical details of the Phoenix infiltration, Marcus stepped outside onto a hidden platform that overlooked the East River. The city sparkled in the distance, millions of lights representing millions of lives that would be affected by whatever decision he made in the next few hours. His phone, a new encrypted device Webb had given him, buzzed with an incoming message. The sender was listed as unknown, but Marcus recognized the writing style immediately. "Marcus, please come home. I don't understand what's happening, but I know you're not the person they're saying you are on the news. Whatever trouble you're in, we can face it together. I love you. S. Sarah." Somehow she had found a way to contact him, despite the surveillance he knew surrounded her. Marcus stared at the message, memorizing every word. In another life, in another timeline, he would have rushed back to her, found a way to explain everything, built a legal defense against the charges. But in this timeline, going back to Sarah meant condemning millions of Americans to live under the invisible control of a criminal consortium. He typed a response, deleted it, typed another. Finally, he settled on something that felt impossibly inadequate. "I'm sorry. I love you too. Trust me. Please." Jenny found him 20 minutes later, still staring at his phone. "Second thoughts?" she asked. "1,000 of them?" Marcus pocketed the device. "Tell me something. When this is over, when Phoenix is destroyed and the consortium is exposed, what happens to people like us? Where do we go?" Jenny was quiet for a long moment. "David used to say that some fights are worth losing everything for. He said that if you're not willing to sacrifice what you have, you'll never be able to protect what matters." "And what matters?" "The idea that ordinary people should be able to live their lives without worrying about invisible puppet masters controlling everything from the shadows." Jenny turned to look at the city lights. "Your fiancé, your employees, your friends, they all deserve to live in a world where their votes count, where their communications are private, where their power doesn't get shut off because some billionaire wants to manipulate energy prices." Marcus nodded slowly. "When do we move?" 6 hours. Webb has identified the optimal penetration point during the systems test. Carlos has arranged for a distraction that should draw security away from the main server room. And Riley has prepared a virus based on your original Phoenix architecture that should be undetectable until it's too late to stop. They walked back inside to find the others hunched over computer terminals, lines of code scrolling across multiple screens. The virus Riley had created was elegant in its destructiveness. It would lie dormant until Phoenix attempted to connect to critical infrastructure, then activate and systematically corrupt every system it touched. "Beautiful work," Marcus admitted, studying the code. "David taught you well." Riley's expression softened slightly. "He always said the best hackers were the ones who understood that technology isn't neutral. It's only as good or as evil as the people who control it." Webb looked up from his terminal. "We've got a problem. I'm monitoring federal communications, and they're accelerating the Phoenix deployment. Instead of 72 hours, we now have 12. They're moving up the timeline because they know you're still out there." Carlos cursed in Spanish. "That changes everything. The systems test window we were counting on. It's happening tonight instead of tomorrow." Marcus felt the walls closing in. In just a few hours, he would have to make the most consequential decision of his life, and he would have to make it with incomplete information and insufficient preparation. "There's more," Webb continued grimly. "The federal task force has expanded their search. They're not just looking for you anymore. They're actively hunting anyone who might be connected to you. Monica, your assistant, was arrested an hour ago on suspicion of aiding a fugitive." The news hit Marcus like a physical blow. Monica was a kind, innocent woman whose only crime was working for him. Now she was caught up in a nightmare that would probably destroy her life. "Can we help her?" he asked. "Not without exposing ourselves," Carlos replied, "and probably not even then. They'll hold her incommunicado until this is over, one way or another." Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Every hour he remained free, more innocent people were drawn into the conspiracy's web. Every choice he made had consequences that rippled outward, affecting lives he might never even know about. "The facility in Virginia," he said, opening his eyes. "How do we get in?" Riley smiled for the first time since he'd met her. "That's where it gets interesting. Webb used to work there. He knows the security protocols, the shift schedules, even the maintenance tunnels. And I still have my old access cards," Webb added. "Theoretically deactivated, but Carlos has some interesting ideas about temporary reactivation." Marcus looked around the room at these people who had chosen to risk everything to stop Phoenix. A disgraced government scientist, a dead hacker's cousin, a former FBI agent whose career had been destroyed for asking the wrong questions, and a waitress whose brother had been murdered for discovering the truth. They weren't heroes in any traditional sense. They were just people who had decided that some things were worth fighting for, even when the odds of success seemed impossible. "All right," Marcus said, "let's go destroy my life's work." As they began the final preparations, Marcus tried not to think about Sarah, waiting for him in a world he was about to change forever. After tonight, nothing would ever be the same. The Phoenix Data Center in Quantico, Virginia, rose from the landscape like a monument to digital power. 3 stories of reinforced concrete and steel, surrounded by razor wire and patrolled by guards who believed they were protecting America's most vital cybersecurity asset. Marcus crouched in the tree line 500 yards away, watching the facility through night vision binoculars. "Shift change in 10 minutes, Webb whispered, checking his watch. The former NSA analyst had traded his rumpled suit for black tactical gear, transforming from academic to operative with unsettling ease. "Carlos, are you in position?" Carlos's voice crackled through their encrypted radio channel. "Explosive charges set on the backup generator facility. Should draw half the security team when they detonate." Riley's fingers flew across a laptop balanced on her knees. "I'm into their perimeter surveillance system. I can give you a 15-minute window of looped footage, but after that, the anomaly detection algorithms will flag the intrusion." Marcus felt his heart hammering against his ribs. In his previous life, the most dangerous thing he had done was navigate hostile boardroom negotiations. Now he was about to break into a federal facility to commit what the government would certainly classify as an act of terrorism. "Remember," Jenny said, checking her equipment one final time, "once we're inside, we have exactly 90 minutes before the system's test window closes. If Phoenix goes live before we can deploy the virus, it's over." Webb studied the facility layout on his tablet. "Service entrance, sub-level 2. My old access card should get us through the first 3 checkpoints, assuming Carlos's modifications work. After that, we're relying on Marcus's administrative credentials." "And if the credentials don't work?" Marcus asked. "Then we improvise," Carlos replied grimly. "Or we die trying." The explosions, when they came, lit up the night sky like premature fireworks. Even from their distant position, Marcus could feel the concussive force ripple through the air. Emergency sirens began wailing almost immediately, and they watched as half the security team raced toward the backup facility in their vehicles. "Go, go, go!" Webb urged. They moved across the open ground like shadows, using the chaos and the sirens to mask their approach. The service entrance was exactly where Webb had promised, a nondescript door marked only with a small placard reading, "Authorized personnel only." Webb swiped his modified access card, and for a heart-stopping moment nothing happened. Then the lock disengaged with a soft click, and they were inside. The interior of the facility was a maze of corridors lined with humming servers and cooling equipment. Emergency lighting bathed everything in an eerie red glow, and the constant background noise of computers and air conditioning systems created an electronic symphony that seemed to echo Marcus's racing pulse. "This way," Webb whispered, consulting a mental map of the facility. "Server room is 3 levels down." They moved through the corridors with practiced stealth, avoiding the remaining security personnel who were coordinating the response to Carlos's diversion. Twice they had to duck into equipment rooms as guards hurried past, speaking urgently into their radios about the explosions. The elevator to the lower levels required Webb's card again, plus a biometric scan that made Marcus hold his breath. But apparently, Webb's clearance hadn't been completely purged from the system. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. 70 minutes, Riley announced as they descended. The main server room was a cathedral of technology. Rows upon rows of black server cabinets stretched into the distance, their status lights blinking like electronic constellations. The air was cold and dry, maintained at precisely the right temperature and humidity to keep the millions of dollars in equipment running smoothly. Phoenix core servers, Webb said, pointing to a section of cabinets surrounded by additional security barriers. Biometric locks, Faraday cage shielding, isolated network connections. They really don't want anyone accessing these systems. Marcus approached the Phoenix servers with something approaching reverence. These machines contained years of his work, lines of code he had crafted with meticulous care, algorithms that represented the cutting edge of cybersecurity technology. In just a few minutes, he was going to destroy it all. The biometric scanner recognized his palm print immediately, and the security barriers retracted with mechanical precision. Marcus plugged Riley's laptop into the diagnostic port and began typing commands that felt like signing his own death warrant. "Phoenix system responding," he announced. "I'm in the core architecture now." On the laptop screen, the familiar interface of his creation appeared. Status displays showed Phoenix running through its final compatibility tests, reaching out to test networks around the country to verify it could interface with power grids, financial systems, and communication networks. 60 minutes, Riley warned. Marcus navigated deeper into Phoenix's core systems, past the security protocols he had designed, past the encrypted data channels, to the heart of the system where the backdoor protocols waited like sleeping serpents. "There," he whispered, pointing to lines of code on the screen. "The master access keys. Once I modify these, Riley's virus will have administrative access to every system Phoenix touches." Jenny looked over his shoulder at the code. "Do it." Marcus's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Once he pressed these keys, there would be no going back. Phoenix would be corrupted beyond repair. His company would be destroyed, and he would become one of the most wanted fugitives in America. But millions of Americans would remain free from the invisible control of the consortium. He began typing. The modifications were elegant in their simplicity, a few altered parameters that would make Phoenix treat Riley's virus as a legitimate administrative update. To anyone monitoring the system, it would look like routine maintenance until it was far too late. "Upload beginning," Riley announced as her virus began flowing into Phoenix's core systems. Estimated completion time, 45 minutes. That's when the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in immediately, bathing the server room in hellish red illumination. Through the facility's speaker system, a calm, computerized voice began announcing, "Security breach detected. Facility lockdown initiated. All personnel remain in position for verification." "They know we're here," Webb said grimly. Carlos's voice crackled through their radios. "Lost contact with the outside team. I think the whole facility is jamming external communications." Marcus watched the progress bar on Riley's laptop crawl forward with agonizing slowness. 23% complete. At this rate, they needed at least 30 more minutes. But the sound of running footsteps in the corridors above suggested they had considerably less time than that. "Can you speed up the upload?" Jenny asked. Riley shook her head. "It's already running at maximum bandwidth. The virus has to integrate with Phoenix's security protocols slowly, or the system will recognize it as an intrusion and quarantine it." Webb was monitoring the facility's internal security feeds on his tablet. 6 guards moving toward our position. They'll be here in about 10 minutes. Marcus stared at the laptop screen, watching as his life's work was systematically corrupted by code designed to destroy everything he had built. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had created Phoenix to protect America's digital infrastructure, and now he was using it to commit what history would probably record as one of the most devastating cyber attacks in the country's history. 38%, Riley announced. The sound of footsteps was getting closer now, accompanied by the mechanical whine of security doors opening and closing as the guards methodically searched each level. "There's another way," Marcus said suddenly. "What do you mean?" Webb asked. Marcus pulled up another section of Phoenix's code. The system has a manual override protocol. It was designed as a last resort if Phoenix ever got compromised, a way to shut down the entire network instantly. But that would just stop Phoenix temporarily, Jenny pointed out. They could restart it once they figured out what happened. Not if I corrupt the core operating system first. Marcus's fingers were already flying across the keyboard. I can introduce cascading failures that will require a complete rebuild of the system architecture. It would take months, maybe years, to recreate Phoenix from scratch. Riley looked up from monitoring the upload progress. But you'd have to do it manually from the core server, and that means staying here while the rest of us escape. The implications hung in the air like smoke. If Marcus triggered the manual override, he would destroy Phoenix completely, but he would also trap himself in the facility with no hope of escape. 51%, Riley said quietly. The footsteps were on their level now, moving systematically down the corridor. Through the security feeds, Webb could see the guards checking each room with military precision. There's a service tunnel behind the main servers, Webb said, studying the facility schematics. If we move now, we might be able to reach the emergency exit before they lock down the entire building. Marcus looked at his companions. These brave people who had risked everything to help him stop a conspiracy that threatened the very foundations of democracy. They deserved a chance to escape, to live to fight another day. "Go," he said. "Marcus, no," Jenny started. "Go," he repeated more forcefully. "Get the evidence out. Make sure the world knows what Phoenix really was. That's more important than any of us." Riley's laptop chimed softly. 67% complete. Webb grabbed Marcus by the shoulder. "Son, there's got to be another way." "There is no other way." Marcus gently removed Webb's hand. "This is what David Chen would have done. This is what he died trying to do." The first security guard appeared at the far end of the server room, his weapon drawn and ready. "Federal agents, show yourselves immediately." Marcus dove behind a server cabinet as gunfire erupted, bullets sparking off metal housing and shredding fiber optic cables. In the chaos, he saw Webb, Jenny, and Riley disappearing through the service tunnel, carrying with them the evidence that would expose the conspiracy. 79%, the laptop announced in its calm electronic voice. More guards poured into the server room, their tactical lights cutting through the red emergency illumination like laser beams. Marcus crawled between the server racks, staying low as bullets whined overhead. His phone buzzed with a final encrypted message. This time it wasn't from Sarah. It was from an unknown number, but the content made his blood run cold. "Stop the upload now, or Sarah Whitman dies. You have 30 seconds to comply." Marcus closed his eyes, understanding the impossible choice the consortium was forcing him to make. Save the woman he loved, or save the country they both lived in. 86% complete. Through the gunfire and shouting, Marcus heard another sound, the distinctive whine of Riley's laptop as it strained to complete the upload that would destroy Phoenix forever. He thought about Sarah, probably sitting in her apartment right now, watching the news reports about her fugitive fiancé and trying to understand how her perfect life had collapsed overnight. He thought about David Chen, killed for trying to protect his country from invisible threats. He thought about Monica, arrested for the crime of being loyal to her employer. He thought about millions of Americans who would never know how close they had come to losing their freedom to a criminal conspiracy. 93% complete. Marcus made his choice. Instead of stopping the upload, he accessed Phoenix's manual override protocol and began entering the commands that would corrupt the system's core architecture beyond any hope of repair. His phone buzzed one final time with a message from Sarah. "I know you're doing the right thing. I love you." Somehow she understood. "Upload complete," the laptop announced. "System corruption initiated." Around him, the Phoenix servers began to fail one by one, their status lights flickering from green to red as Riley's virus spread through the network like digital wildfire. Across the country, the most sophisticated cybersecurity system ever created was destroying itself from within. As federal agents closed in on his position, Marcus Sterling smiled. He had lost everything: his company, his fortune, his freedom, and probably his life. But America would remain free. In the end, that was enough.